What's up, guys? Hope you guys had a good weekend. Ready for that market to open. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. What's up, Mike, Shelby, Tom, Jet? See you guys. I'm just going to let the community know that we are, in fact, going live. Everyone. Cool. Gonna let that sort of sit there for a minute or two and see if we get a few extra people in here. Doing well, man. Anxious to get back on track this week. Yeah, man, like it's been vacation's nice, but you know, like I said before, when you find what you like to do, it's very difficult to kind of get away from trading and just being involved with the community and stuff. And yeah, it's yeah, it's just good to be back. Keep it short and sweet. Q2, let's go. That's right. Want to talk about Q2 a little bit as well. The trip was awesome. Other than yeah, just getting a little bit of sunstroke for a couple days, but yeah, it's just the way it goes sometimes. So trip itself, the place we stayed was absolutely amazing. If anybody's looking to go to Mexico in the foreseeable future, definitely hit me up. I will definitely steer you in the direction that we went, which I think was an absolutely incredible package. So yeah, if anybody's ever interested in traveling over there, more so on like the all-inclusive side of things, that was definitely the route to go with the resort that we went to. So let's jump into this. It's going to be pretty short and sweet today. And moving forward, in all fairness, now that we've kind of gone through a little bit of the growing pains of just kind of getting everybody up to speed, we do have a couple new members starting. I think that they kind of got in here today. We're going to getting into accepting some more people. We've been kind of bombarded with applications and stuff like that. But yeah, just for the guys that have been around since pretty well day one or week one of the launch. I mean, not that you know we're not going to be putting forth the same amount of effort. It's just a lot of the stuff we'll be able to get through. A lot of the material we'll be able to get through a little bit quicker. Yeah, hey Nick, what's going on, dude? Welcome. Yeah, so I'm going to work on getting kind of like a welcome series. We do have like a welcome little area within the server itself. This is definitely, and I guess I'm kind of talking to you specifically right now, Nick, but yeah, this is very much just kind of go along with what's going on. It's very much like a putting it all together sort of community. And yeah, we don't talk about like one specific thing on a specific day. We very much look at everything from like a bird's eye view and look at the entire approach. So yeah, you'll get to know the channel pretty quickly. It's nice and small. I think there's only 105 members. I would say less than half are super active. So you'll fit in just fine, man. And you'll notice that the community itself is not overly active, which is kind of nice. I think everybody's very much on their own journey. So what I would suggest to anybody who has joined this week and you are tuning in for the first time, just remember that like everybody is very much on their own journey within this community. And that's kind of the way that we've set it up is to basically get people very, very invested in what it is that we're doing, and get themselves set up to be able to use the Notion template properly. Anyways, if you have any questions, Nick, hit us up, or anybody who's just joining in this week, either myself or Flow State Dave, will take care of you. We've got a couple other members too that we're going to be adding on to the team hopefully this week. Yeah, so anyways, we'll get into all that kind of stuff. So today is Basically just going to be a forecasting session, and I'll always have like a couple of notes that I've just kind of compiled for over the week or the weekend or whatever it might be. We're not going to get into like the Notion template stuff today. Reason being is not because Dave doesn't want to do it. It's just I think everybody's got a pretty good handle on it. So can we get a 1 in the comments if you do have a good handle on it? Disregard everybody who who's obviously brand new here. If you don't have a handle on it, you will, and we'll point you in the right direction to kind of get there. But yeah, everybody who's in the community or has been in the community, like, do you guys have a good handle on it? 1 in the comments. And then if you're just still not having a good time with it, drop a 2. Cool. Good God, my coffee is hot. Wow, I just burnt my mouth. Okay, cool. So yeah, just like, yeah, moving forward, we're going to stay away from, doing this every single week. Maybe every other week we'll do like a Notion seminar or something like that. But right now it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We'll just stick away from that. We'll focus on the trading stuff. Can you guys drop a 1 to 10 rating on how valuable you find the Notion system? There we go. It's a work in progress, right, Dave? We're always we're working towards it to get it. Man, it's great. It's fucking fantastic. But like anything, right? Like we need feedback. Dave needs feedback. I need feedback in order to make this thing better, right? And you guys are fortunately and unfortunately a part of kind of like this beta testing of this entire platform. Really, not so much just even the Notion template, but with this system and how we're approaching it and how we're teaching it. So again, guys, just don't forget to leave some content suggestions or approach either myself or Dave directly to let us know any concerns or anything that you think that should be introduced into the community. So let's jump into this. Like I said, we're going to be focusing on just the forecasting and just kind of moving outwards from there. I do have a couple notes, like I said. So let's leave questions. And for anybody who is new, what we try to do is just kind of make this a little bit easier on the person that's hosting the webinar. Questions should ideally be left until the end of the seminar, unless I cue you guys and say, do you have any specific questions about this, which I often do. Please don't just rampage in the comment or in the chat section and ask a bunch of questions. I always keep it up on my display, but it's very distracting if I'm seeing it while I'm trying to articulate what I'm looking at. So right now, this is the 4-hour chart. We usually like to look at the weekly and the daily and stuff like that as well. Just on Sundays, primarily we use the 4-hour, down to all time frames in between 4-hour all the way down to 5 second. But yeah, let's just focus on the higher time frame stuff. So very, very simple. We're reacting to, I believe it's this weekly demand that we've been reacting to. So you can just see that, obviously we're going to get some sort of a push off of this to nobody's real surprise here, just given the fact that, this is where we basically broke our first bit of structure. We've left behind a good bit of imbalance, levels of liquidity to take into the area. Now, when you look at this, the problem I kind of have with it, and again, this doesn't really affect us day to day, but it does affect us from a higher time frame perspective, is do we have equal highs here? Yes. Is there a chance that we can come up here? Absolutely. The problem with it is that we don't have a lot of stuff generated. It's very, very early, right? Like we don't have a whole lot of equals to then come down, sweep into an extremity, and then run into this. So you can see that we're in the very early stages of what could be a very large accumulation phase that happens in the market for a larger position building, be able to create liquidity on the side of the market that we need it on to be able to then start moving this way. You know what I mean? Like we're very underdeveloped in terms of what's happening on the higher time frame. And then just kind of jumping down onto the daily, you can see just a little bit more. Like we've essentially created the equal highs here. We have in fact run the equal highs, and this kind of brings me into like the first sort of topic that I want to talk about here. So right now, structure is one of these things where, there's really no subjectiveness or subjectivity in how we interpret what structure is. So right now we had here to here, then we had here to here. And right now we're kind of lingering between these two areas, right? This is the impulsive leg that we're sort of resting within. Now, can we come down into here and then obviously drive up? Of course, but from a structural standpoint, and only talking from a structure standpoint, the area that needs to hold in order to remain bullish daily structure would be here, okay? I think everybody can understand that. Now, one of the things that needs to be noted here is that we're looking at this area over here where we can see that we have a very small wick break on the right-hand side. Do I consider this a break of structure? Not really. This is that first sort of dip into the low. So the reason I'm saying this is because you can just see this beautiful supply that was left behind at this sort of flip zone area, right? So this is considered a flip zone because we have in fact broken up right here. Yes, it's only classified as a sweep, and we don't really look at the wick break as a really, really strong area that we can go into saying that this is a structure break. However, the thing that I'm most interested in is this doji right here, this demand turning into supply, known as our sort of D2S flip zone. So let me just put that on there. And then what I'm going to do is just go something like this. And let's go like that. Okay. So you can see that, like, we've basically created this lower time frame liquidity. You can't see it on the daily as well, but you can see this lower time frame liquidity right here. You can see the built up mitigations here. We've now driven into here, and we have a huge bearish engulfing candle that's kind of showing us really what the market's trying to do here. So I know that we're looking at these areas for longs, but you can just see more and more liquidity is sort of building across the lows here. Doesn't mean they won't hold. It's just like, can we look for a position here? Absolutely. Can we look for a position if it comes back up to here? Absolutely. So right now, just looking at the daily, you can just see that we're essentially reacting to that higher time frame demand over to the left-hand side. We've now come up into a very do or die sort of supply region. And now it's a matter of the market kind of making up its mind. We're just caught between, kind of two demand zone over here on the higher time frame and a supply zone here on the higher time frame. So just be mindful of this. Understand that the market can go either way right now. You can just see that, like, we've kind of had a very poor delivery off of this kind of deal. It doesn't mean that it can't sustain. It just means right now, this looks, I mean, if you were to look at this right now, would you say that this high is weak or these lows are weak? Give me a 1 for the high and then a 2 for the lows. Just looking at it. I mean, to me, it looks like there's liquidity under the lows. And the reason I can say that with a little bit more confidence is just because we've already taken the highs. We've had this aggressive push. And as soon as we liquidated the highs, we immediately see this V-shaped recovery or this very, very strong opposing direction push. So doesn't mean it's not going to, like, I don't want to, have a very wishy-washy opinion about what the market's going to do. But it depends on how it develops, right? It depends on how the lower time frame looks, where liquidity gets built. Right now, the only reason this high would go would be due to expectational order flow. The only reason these lows would go is because there's equal lows, there's built up mitigations, we've swept the high, we are aligned with higher time frame intention to make a new low. So we have a lot more confluences built around this potentially going a lot lower. Now, because of course we are reacting to higher time frame demand, we just need to consider that as well. Everybody with me so far? Cool. Okay, let's jump down into the 4. So I marked out a few areas. I just want to talk about these. So this is kind of like so when I'm looking at higher time frame and getting into like projections, I don't and really any time frame, doesn't really matter what it is. I don't necessarily look at this specific candle or this specific candle. What I like to look at is the bigger picture and just kind of understand that, okay, the last push up before we broke through and closed below was basically this entire push up right here, right? So don't get too caught up in your time frames or we didn't come up into this specific area. If you kind of just drag this across to this level, you can see that we didn't actually tap in. So you got to read between the lines a little bit. The market's not perfect, but oh my goodness, what you can really notice is that we had these equal highs, we had inducement built, we had a chalk down, we had a poor delivery, we've come down, we've liquidated the lows, creating more liquidity, we've come back up into the extreme, a lot of people taking sells from here, but we have too much liquidity above the highs. What do? We liquidate the highs, and now you can just see the delivery, right? Isn't the high probability trade better all the way up there? All the way up where exactly? On the wick that you just put. Well, I mean, and again, man, just keep your questions till a little bit later if that's cool, unless I queue. But like, I mean, the bottom line is like this is the supply range that is above equal highs, right? And you can just kind of refine this down to something like this, right? And then you can toggle between your time frames to make this make a little bit more sense, right? And you can just see that, yeah, there's not a whole lot there. There's a 12-hour, yeah, you can just see like this 12-hour. And again, like you don't need to be toggling between all this stuff to try to find the perfect supply. The idea or the purpose of this demonstration is to show where the supply range really is, right? And that's this failed push up and then tapering off into, so can we come up into here and this would be a high probability area? For sure. But the main thing that needs to be noted is that we've got equals built, we've got liquidation, and then come up into the supply range. And then it's a matter of looking for criteria and defining what that is. And you don't need to necessarily have a refined POI within this area. You need to understand that there's supply resting in the market here. And then what ends up happening after we tap into this supply is this is when we start to refine down based off of what happens within this schematic right here, right? So if we see something like this, okay, we get the first push up, we come back down, and then we don't have any liquidity to target on the low, then we'll likely run the high again, and then we can look for the 15-minute change of character up in here, and then run the week low, right? So it's all about how it develops, and it's good to just have a broad spectrum for your POI and just say that, okay, ultimately supply is kind of controlling the market. From this area, we do have that lower time frame equal highs that we can run and grab liquidity from, and then we can start delivering the market down, right? So when you look at these two things and you look at the nature of how this kind of moved back into this demand down in here, you can see that it moved very correctively, right? It created equal lows to then sweep and then move forward. We kind of talked about this on Friday, right? So if we're looking at this sort of schematic that's happening right now, or the delivery off of this POI after liquidating these highs, you can see that this is very much an impulsive leg, whereas this was a lot more corrective with built up mitigations to then come up and liquidate these highs, right? So, and this leads me into the fact that, like, somebody had asked, I believe it was Forex Bag in the group chat and in the the trading questions sections, which one makes the most sense to take longs from, right? And the bottom line is that we really don't know whether or not this down in here, like they're all levels that will more than likely prove to have a good reaction. But here's the thing, we need liquidity to take from the market, which is going to happen in the form of equal lows getting swept down into here and then needing equal highs to run into, so that we can then possibly come up to mitigate this area, come back down, and as long as we fail to take this area out, then we can start to look to then come into running this into the expectational order flow high. So again, right now, as it sits, there's not a lot, like if you were to just go long from here, I think it would be very silly without other confluences that we build into and have our trade plan sort of built around. So don't be naive and say that just because we have a demand zone sitting here that it's going to hold, right? You have to remember, like, what can we target right now? And I'm not talking about the highs. I'm talking about in here. Do we have something realistic that should bring price up to liquidate something else, mitigate something else? And then as long as we come back down into here and then show some sort of a change of character, do we have now new liquidity to target this way? So this is a process, right? There's the liquidation, there's the mitigation, there's the chalk, and then there's the flip, looking to target the new brown liquidity that we've now produced. So is everybody with me with just kind of like this example on the 4 hour so far? The bottom line with this is like how we develop and how price reveals itself in these areas and delivers itself into the POIs has more relevance than this just being a random bit of structure. Not a random bit, it's supposed to be, in theory, a protected low, but we need to be able to build confluence around why this area should be a protected low. We can't just say that because it's a structure low that it's protected. We need to have reason for price to want to move in this direction and then come back up into the new highs. So yeah, from like a higher time frame narrative kind of standpoint, this is what we sort of look at, getting into the week. So I would say that your really, really great trades can happen from here, okay? Because if we break through this, what does that mean now? Ultimately, like, I'll answer this question. It's going to mean that there's now a change in what? If we break this low, change in structure, change in structure. So if we change structure, what does this high potentially become now? Very strong, right? So this, I got a note on this right here, just to kind of bring up. How many people going into this right now, okay, looking at the price right now, are looking at the trade of the week coming from this area right here, trading up into these highs? It's good. It's, I mean, with what we have right now, it would be reasonable to expect that. Here's the problem. If we look at this level, okay, we're going to see a chalk in here, by the way. We're going to see a 15-minute chalk. I don't have a single fucking doubt in my mind that we're going to see a 15-minute chalk, because there is going to be everybody and their fucking dog looking at the same thing, which is going to produce a reaction. Problem with it is that if you focus all of your attention off of this low right here, what happens when it breaks? Now all you're going to do is you're going to chase the next demand. Then you're going to chase the next demand. And we have living proof of that in the community right now. And again, I'm not trying to single anybody out. I am also a victim of this. You're going to have a buy bias no matter what, because you're going to feel entitled to the buys. When meanwhile, when this ends up breaking down, if it does, and we break down like this, everybody's still focused on this. I'm now focused on this. We're not the same. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing, is when structure shifts, your bias needs to shift along with it. So you just need to give yourself like some sort of a mental reminder, whether it be a reminder in your phone, whether it be an alert, something along the lines of saying, okay, so let's go like this, add an alert, right? So let's open this guy up and we'll just go like this. When this breaks, look for, the strong high. Use your alerts. I'm going to keep mine right here like this, because if we break that, it means that something has changed, right? And this is why you need to view the importance in how we deliver into here, right? So if we deliver up like this, we create equal highs, we sweep down into the low, I would say that you have a really good trade setup to then take this into the next supply region above the equal highs. Everybody understand that? But here's the thing, like once we break above the highs, we're not going to have enough liquidity above this high to just blow through it. where's the liquidity after we take equal highs? Well, it's going to be down here in this demand, right? So now we got to figure out whether or not how this delivers into here and whether or not we get the same kind of criteria. Do we get the equals build, sweep down in, and then do we have other equal highs that we can, like, it's a huge schematic, right? Until it finally pops through, because we have enough mitigations to provide the liquidity to facilitate the move that we want in our favor. So just remember, like how this sits right now, if you're going to get involved and hope to, and let's say this comes down into here, boom, you get involved and all of a sudden you're swinging for above this high, you don't take any partials. Is that a logical trade? Probably not, because just because this is an expectational order flow high that needs to go, it doesn't mean that we won't go like this and say, come into here, we produce the first reaction, okay, we come back down, we produce equals, we sweep down into here, and then we go, right? So you have to be realistic in your approach with your profit taking. You can play the reactions as long as they fit the criteria that we have in our community. But the bottom line is like, and I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face, how we deliver into POIs is what gives them the relevance. A POI is nothing without confluence. And fortunately for you guys, you have all of the confluences that we use as coaches as well as a community. So just be very mindful of the fact that there's no secret sauce here. There's no margin for error. It's if it doesn't line up the way that we like to see it line up, chances are we're going to get liquidated. So just remember, the importance and the validity of the POI comes from the confluences and how it delivers into and away from the specific POI. And that's like, I mean, we'll jump down into lower time frame and stuff so that we can just kind of have a look. I think I was looking at the 30-minute. So I was just kind of toying around with a few areas here. So if you look right now, I would say that, yeah, you can just see the corrective nature of the market kind of moving back up into here. You can see that we got a lot of liquidity resting just above here. So the chances of us liquidating this are very, very high. It's just a matter of, okay, do these lows need to go first in order to then facilitate the move into these highs? Or are we just going to come into this demand zone, right? Because we've technically seen a 15-minute chalk across like this. And now we're just going to rock through here and then come up to the first supply above, right? So all of these things are things that need to start getting kind of thought about. But yeah, as it stands right now, you can just see like how correctively we're sort of moving. Like we're still moving from the higher time frame. We're moving very aggressively, but you can see a lot more details within what's happening over the course of the last couple of days. So I would say that it is reasonable to think that this at least should get achieved. You can see that we have a beautiful supply zone. We had lower time frame liquidity. We swept up, we came down, we swept below. So this gives this more validity in here based on the fact that we've taken liquidity from the flip and we've also broken structure, right? So be patient, let things develop the way that they're supposed to. I know that we're getting deep and deep in price, and looking for sells may not be up your alley. I might take some intraday plays and stuff like that and just kind of follow along the flow chart. But the bottom line is, you know, if we just sort of build like this, we kind of sweep up like this and then crash down into here, and then we see that 15-minute sort of chalk like this, you can bet your ass I'm getting involved here to then take out these equals like this. So again, we don't know what's going to happen. All we can do is you know, kind of train the eye to understand. That's what these sessions are for on Sunday, is to really just kind of break down the different scenarios that could potentially happen throughout the week to give you that highest probability setup. But right now we're a long shot away from really being able to say like, okay, the home run trade for this week is going to come from here. We don't know that yet because we don't have price developed far enough to really say that with any kind of certainty. So we've kind of talked about the buy side of things. I would say that the really good trade could happen from here. Again, pending the development of price around these areas, and we've kind of talked about these areas and what needs to happen at this point. When it comes to sell bias, does anybody have an idea of where sells would be a really, really good idea from? So before you guys mark up the chart, I want you to think about where liquidity is sitting right now, and I'll give you a hint. Yeah, okay, good. So I think there we go. I think that this region right here, and the reason, now it doesn't mean that we won't see a good reaction off of here, but the problem with it is that this doesn't take any liquidity, right? Where this does. So for the market to come up and break through this, just like it's not a very likely situation, right? We need to produce. So like, I think what we'll likely do is we'll see something along the lines of, okay, we've got this POI just above, right? So if we came into here and then we get a 15-minute chalk and then we come up and liquidate, now a lot of people are looking to go long. Excuse me. Meanwhile, we got a sell bias kind of coming up from here as our trade of the week, taking this now down into this demand level down here below this week low, right? So just remember, is there a potential to see a reversal from here? I mean, sure, of course there is. There's always a potential. Now, what I would like to see for that to really gain some validity would be some form of inducement formed here and then sweep just into this like this, right? So again, just kind of vomiting words at this point and just kind of going over the same thing over and over. Amazing how that happens when you have a trade plan. But how we develop just before this POI is what's going to give it more and more relevance to our trade ideas. So in this circumstance where we build up equals, let's say we have a chalk like this or something like that, and then we come down into here and then we run all of these highs, I would say that this might be a good area to start looking for a slowdown. However, it's going to depend on what it looks like going into the POI. Now, with that being said, if we just come up and liquidate into here like this, I would say it's going to be very difficult for price to want to come all the way back down like this. I think that we would more likely see some form of inducement like this to then sweep up one last time into the area that took liquidity in the first place, and then start trading this down into the lows. Everybody understand the two differences or the differences between those two kind of scenarios? Premium discount tells me that lower POI isn't the highest probable one, but higher would be. So the higher probability one, in my opinion, how it stands right now is always going to be this guy, given the fact that that's the one that takes liquidity. Now, what you need to understand too is, like, we obviously know that 4-hour structure sort of sits here. We got 15-minute structural leg right in here, but let's look at this for what it is, as opposed to, like a little bit less rigid, and just kind of talk about how it looks and what we can kind of assume from the market right now. So the way that I view it is 4-hour structure highs here, okay? Without a doubt, the last break of structure was here. This is the structure high with the 15-minute. Now, if we were to talk about relevant structure, and this is where that sort of subjectiveness sort of steps into how we look at the market and how we decipher things within the market. Where is the relevant structure point for us right now? If we were to look for sells, what's the most relevant area of structure? Bingo. Right here, right? Comes from an area that's a flip. This is a, like, so the way that I would view this, and the way that I would probably plot my premium and discount.
I'm not sure I understand.
Oops. Well, that's fine. You don't need to. What would be something like this, right? As it stands right now. So when you look at this and you say, like, okay, like I can only take stuff in the premium, Ideally, though, we'd like to see stuff in this upper 25 or this lower 25, right? Percent of the GAN box. You can see that this is in fact in the premium of the leg. Now, I'm not just doing this to kind of skew my bias or favor my opinion here. Quite frankly, I think that the better place to trade from is always going to be the area that takes liquidity. And really, this doesn't really have any kind of grab on liquidity in here. It doesn't mean it's not going to be relevant, but you're also compromising the POI checklist or flowchart that we've provided, because this doesn't necessarily take liquidity from the market. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a stronger or a strong point. So high probability sells come from here, based on the fact that if we sweep up into this, we should be able to deliver pretty heavily down into these lows to stay aligned with potential higher time frame expectational order flow to take out this high at some point. So there's a really great trade idea that could formulate in this area. There's also a really, really great trade idea that could formulate from here or potentially this unmitigated area and run all of this as liquidity. Now, we're likely to see a pretty strong reaction off of this, but whether or not it takes out anything relevant is obviously what's going to determine whether or not this is going to be a strong low to trade from into some sort of liquidity region up here. So we're going to talk about this obviously every day of this week. We're going to be talking about it in the pre-New York narratives. We're going to be talking about it in the trade recaps that we have every single day. Right now, as it sits, the two areas that I'm most interested in are going to be 1 and 2. Obviously down in here as well. We'll just classify these two demand zones as one and the same, depending on how things develop before actually hitting these POIs. Are there any questions pertaining to the, oh my goodness, forecasting call today? I don't want to hear about your charts or your trades that you took this week. I want to know if you have any questions about what we've just forecasted. Okay, cool. So drop a 1 in the comments if you've fully grasped this, you're ready to kick the shit out of this week, and drop a 2 if you're just not quite sure yet. Don't we already have inducement into the first POI? Isn't that enough to force the move downward if we have liquidity to take? Where are you? Can you draw for us, Jet? Yeah, but again, like it's, if we're going to come up to take liquidity, okay, and we're going to come up and take liquidity, usually the market wants to take all of it, right? So we're going to likely form a reaction off of here, right? How can I show this? Something like this. Same thing, right? So we've pushed up, we've had the change of character, we blast right through, we liquidate again, you know what I mean? So it's, we just have to be mindful of the fact that, yes, we could see a reversal from this area, 100%. Do we already have inducement? Yes, we sort of like, yes, we do. But we need to watch how we develop here. So if we come down and we induce one last time and then sweep, I would say that this would be relevant. And if we just come up to something like this and drive directly into it, I would be worried about it getting induced one last time and then coming down. So just understanding the delivery that happens before the POI is ultimately what's going to really, really give it, you know, that concrete reversal. Cool. How are you guys doing that have just joined? I think there's Nick in here right now. That's probably a lot to deal with, brother, but this is kind of what we do every Sunday. We just kind of look at stuff from more of a higher time frame narrative, understand what's you know, what's to be expected to a certain degree, and just how to adapt to the different market conditions. So the only other scenario I just want to talk about super quickly is obviously like if and when this low breaks. Just remember, and like I would set an alert, guys. I would set an alert in and around this region right when this low goes. Remember that structure shifts once we break that level. So very, very key detail. Do not chase longs all fucking week long on counter trend bullshit, right? We want to be able to stay aligned with where the money is flowing. And if you don't want to do that, man, you're going to have a hard time. Okay. One of the, I just have a few notes here that I'm just going to kind of bring forward. Backtest available setups and Notion logs. Okay, so we haven't talked like a crazy amount about backtesting, and we're going to start talking about it a little bit more. Ultimately, the ball's in your court, what you guys want to do. Case studies are honestly the best way to go, especially when you're first trying to adopt a strategy. Now, one of the things that I would suggest doing, I won't be doing it along with you guys because anyways, I don't need to get into that, but I don't backtest a whole lot anymore. And I'm hoping that you guys will be at a level within the next, maybe year, 6 months to a year, where you won't have to backtest very much. But the way that you should look at backtesting is basically when you build a case study out every single day in your Notion log, anytime that there was an available trade, of course, that fit the criteria, I would take every single available trade that correlated with the flow chart. And what I would do is basically section, and like you can do this during London, you can do it during New York, Asia. The purpose of this is to train your eye, right? It's not necessarily to specifically only trade New York or only trade London. It's to be able to see the setups so that when you actually see them developing live, you can actually act on them, right? Because it's a different story taking trades, when it's in a live market as opposed to just building case studies around them, right? So the progression in which we should follow is like, okay, you've been doing case studies for about 4 weeks now. For those of you who have been here since day one, now we've started applying it. So what I would do, and again, I'm just kind of repeating myself, but what I would do and how I would approach doing this is like, pick a day. Pick 1 day per week where you do your back testing. Okay. And what I would do is, excuse me, I would basically just have my case study up in front of me, whether it be printed, whether it be whatever it might be, and just say, you know what, there was an available trade here. I know that there was an available trade on March 27th. It was long, it ran 44-hour, whatever it might be. And what you want to do is section yourself off about 2 hours before that trade was available and about 2 hours after, and be able to just kind of watch the development of price going into obviously your selected POI, all these different things, and be able to actually run through it candle by candle. And what I like to do is obviously stay on the 15 until you are actually cued by the flow chart to go down onto your lower time frames, 1 minute, 5 second, etc. And go through the motions, go through the exact motions of clicking through the candles and be able to see how these things form, right? And then see that, okay, ultimately I could have taken 1 to 2 losses before getting in. And then when we get into week 7, week 8, what's going to end up happening is now you can start to add and subtract rules within the flow charts. You can actually start to develop your own flow charts and be able to say, okay, well, Tyson does it this way. The way that I understand it, I'm going to switch things up a little wee bit. So the more data that you have and the more tested data that you have, obviously the more likely you are to succeed in the markets. So just putting that out there, you guys are definitely at a level, I think now as a community and as a whole, to be able to start back testing the strategy. And the best way to start back testing, like I said, is to just be able to understand what days actually provided tangible trades. And then from there, just click through. If you take a couple losses in it, it's not a big deal. You can document these as well. You can document them in a separate, just like a back testing logging, very, very simple one. I can actually look at maybe getting one made. I think I have an old one from another community that I was in, so I can provide that maybe. But yeah, the bottom line is you want to be able to see these candles moving and be able to try to mimic the live market as best you can, so that when these things happen in real life, you can actually adapt to your surroundings a little bit better. So I would say getting into this week might be worth doing. And again, I would pick just 1 day a week and run through, like more often than not, we have how many days, how many days on average would you say you guys have trades that actually correlate with your plan and that you've built case studies around? Typically, I would say about 3 days is kind of like 3 to 4 days per week is what you're going to see trades come up. So it's not a whole lot of homework. It's not a lot of extra work. It's just a matter of going through the motions of doing it. So that's what I'm going to leave you guys with for sort of homework. You're not going to have to prove this homework. The other thing that I want to just kind of put out there for you guys, I'm going to be opening up the April, I guess, docket for or booking for the one-on-ones. We're going to go over the criteria to be able to actually book the one-on-one. So you're going to have to share each individual week as a URL from your Notion to basically prove that you've gone through and done all the homework in order to book. So that's going to come available in 3 days. It's going to come available on Wednesday, which is April 6th, which is basically the first day that you would have started, provided you signed up on day one. I believe March 6th is when we launched. So yeah, once that happens, Thursday. Oh, Thursday, you're turning 30. Congrats. I turned 32. What day was that? Last Thursday on the 29th. So woohoo, to getting old, man. Love it. But yeah, we're gonna start doing the one-on-ones. Basically, you get one free one-on-one per month, and the only way that you can actually apply to do it is if you can prove that you've done all of the homework for the month prior. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking to Dave probably today and tomorrow. We'll get everything set up. I already have the template done for the actual Calendly booking website, and it's a private link, so only people within the community can actually book. And yeah, so that's going to come out this week, Wednesday. We'll be talking back and forth throughout this week anyways, a little bit more about it. So yeah, incentive to really just do your homework. I mean, that's what you came to fucking do anyways, so you might as well do it so that you can possibly get to sit down with me for an hour or 30 minutes, whatever it is, and pick my brain a little bit further. And yeah, every single month you'll be able to do this. Sound fair? Good. Any questions to close this out? Dave, do you have any comments or anything? Anything that you want to bring up? I think you said you were good, but just want to make sure. Excuse me. All right, going once, going twice, 3 times. Alrighty. Okay. Yeah. Just closing comments here. Don't marry the buy narrative. Understand where the sells can come from. That's all stuff that we've already covered. Just like I said, give yourself some notifications, man. Make sure that you're setting your alerts. It's one thing to set an alert, but make sure that you're clear about what this alert means. Put yourself a note, right? So when this pops up on your phone, you know that your narrative is now switched, right? So all these little things are all things that only you can do. I can push you along to actually say, like, this is what you should do. But if you don't do anything and then marry the fucking buy narrative, even though we swept down further and further and further and further, and you're chasing the leg, you're going to have a bad time. So that's it. That's all. I'm going to let you guys go. I will see you guys tomorrow morning for the narrative. And yeah, we'll be linking up, as you guys know, every day at 12 o'clock to do the trade recap. Or just Q&A. If there's no trades taken, we'll just be doing Q&A and stuff like that. So yeah, looking forward to getting back on track with you guys this week and hopefully getting some stuff dialed in for you guys. And one of the things on my bucket list or on my to-do list is to get this higher time frame H4 Pro trend and 15 counter trend model sorted out. So I'm hoping I'll get that done in the next 2 days or so. But yeah, anyways, catch you guys a little bit later. We'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early, and I'll get this uploaded for you guys to rewatch ASAP. Cheers, guys.